Kia ora, g'day, welcome back once again, here with another reaction. This may be the last or the second to last of my reactions to Mr. Kyle Morgan on the Shawn Ryan Show. So let's jump back in.
In that unit. And I even asked, I've been in talk therapy for 6 years. I've done about 3 neck shots, the saline gate blocks. I've done intensive inpatient therapy for combat-related stress and substance abuse. I've done the Army substance abuse programs. Always for someone else, though, and never for myself. Not until I truly saw myself from the outside, from an out-of-body experience where
You had an out-of-body experience?
Yeah.
When was that?
October last year.
What was that like? What'd you see?
I saw just the ugliness. I saw me for not what I thought I was, but like who I was.
What were you doing when that happened?
I was driving back from Texas, and I had my daughter with me, and I was doing internships out in Austin, and I was like, I got to make it back. And there was something I had to make it back for, and I was trying to rebuild my relationship with my wife, and this was the 3rd attempt, and we started dating, and I was spiraling, man, and I was running towards the only thing that I've ever had that's been stable and never lost sight of me, the pure, kind.
Man, sorry to cut him off just then, but clearly carrying some heavy stuff, or was at least anyway, during that time. It must have been hard him to have the out of body experience, to see himself in a different light or through a different perspective, from a different lens. I'm assuming it was a good experience for him, but also the substance abuse stuff that he was talking about and going through those programs, I'm guessing rehab programs, and he said, but always for somebody else. It was never really for him. That's sad too. Heavy burden to carry, with regards to, I guess, the stuff that he's been through, what he's seen, and how he's been trying to process it. And I know that there's a lot of really cool people out there that are advocates, or that maybe not so much proactively advocating, but would, even on my channel, comment and share, man, there should be something in place to help veterans navigate their way through the stuff and that sort of thing. And you know what? I think, to be fair, there may be more of that stuff these days. I know that there was definitely some of that stuff in and around. I remember even when we were getting ready to come back from East Timor, even though that was a predominantly peacetime keeping deployment, in my opinion, there were things like the psychs and that being ready. There was preparation and opportunities to meet with psychs to talk about stuff, and to the point whereby we even had to go and see a psych before we deployed. We had to tick that box. Now, most people, myself included, had no real interest in speaking with psychs, whether that was a combination of just the nature of the deployment, like it wasn't, I didn't find it a physically hard or mentally hard or demanding deployment. It was enjoyable, but yeah, it was more or less peacekeeping. We got utilised in our recon platoon role, and we were patrolling along the borders and spent a lot of time in the jungle and in the mountains and doing OPs and going to places where potentially soldiers or people might come across the border into East Timor, but we never encountered anything. So I never felt a need to go speak with anybody, and if anything, I know I took that type of service and offering for granted, is what I'm trying to get at. So yeah, interesting to hear Kyle's perspective and his take. And I'm assuming there probably was stuff there, but like with anything, my experience is you have to want to accept that help. You have to want to make any changes if you think that there's some negative stuff going on. And yeah, you have to want to try to be better, just like you have to want to be in the special forces. You have to want to be in the military if those are the choices that you choose to make. And you have to be willing to try to go through those things, or go put up with and go through those things in order to get there. But also, as and when and if there are times whereby there is support available to help you, you need to be willing to and wanting to embrace that and take that on board as well. That's my thoughts anyway on it.
And loving person, and that's my wife. And I had my oldest daughter with me, and I went to the bathroom and took a bump of cocaine, what I thought was cocaine. And I was sitting in the driver's seat, just got gas, like started sweating. And then I look over at her and I'm like, I don't feel so good. Can you drive this next hour or so? And then I just like, that's when I could see myself. I almost died from fentanyl overdose.
Damn, man.
And they had to Narcan me, and like this all happened in front of my daughter. Like, not the use of the drug, but man, I could rationalize anything. I'm like, well, I didn't do it in front of her. So, because I had started messing around with like things that could numb you in this space of being a jobless or an operator without a mission. When I got my neck fused and then left my wife, and then I went and did the whole, like, I was going to take over the breaching sergeant major position. And I was like, oh, once I decided I'm not going to be operational anymore, I told them. And that was the hardest thing for me to say, but there were so many other things that I knew from chronic pain, insomnia, like migraines, all these things that started really coming to the forefront after I got my neck fused, and my body, like, I was just like, I got so many other things I got to work on. But then I was like, that position, like, I felt like that was the way for me to give back another 5 years without like being operational, but staying like involved and
staying connected, being involved there. Man, it's a lot of stuff he had going on, having his neck fused. The migraine stuff that he touched on, the injuries, the insomnia, I think I heard him say as well. Oh, man, the stress of it all, not in his shoes, but can feel for the guy just listening to some of the stuff that he's talking about. It doesn't make it right though, eh? And I know that he's out of everyone, he's more than aware of that. It doesn't make it right, the stuff that you're going through to then snort what you think is cocaine and then get in behind the wheel and start operating it, and then discover while you're driving that you're not feeling so good. Being Narcaned to the effects to try to counter the drug that he's just taken. Oh man! And for his daughter to see that and experience that aspect, I like how he's honest about he could rationalize anything. I didn't do the drugs in front of her. Yeah, we're pretty good, eh? All of us, we can rationalize and come up with excuses and make them sound like reasons for anything, while we might choose to not train. We're all really good at making excuses for those. And here's a guy that's struggling, I'm assuming because he's maybe at the doorstep of needing to step away from the role and can no longer operate, I'm guessing, or be an operator effectively on the front line at the tip of the spear, so to speak, and trying to navigate all of that stuff. There's some, for me, I can't speak for Kyle, but I know for me, there's always been some pride and ego involved. Like, I can't talk about my issues, my problems. It's, other people have got other things to worry about. I don't need to go dumping my stuff on them. You could call that an excuse. I reflect on that now and think of that, yeah, that's probably an excuse, but it is also deeply what I feel personally. And I still haven't gotten over that hump in terms of not wanting to burden somebody else with my issues. I still haven't gotten over that. I don't feel like I have anyway. So I know it's deeply rooted in me, and I'm yet to find a way to disconnect from that and speak out a little bit more as and when and if I feel I need to.
And then I went and helped out with the course for one day, and it was around blasts. And it had been 7 months since then between. And I had a migraine for 8 days straight, like debilitating. Like I couldn't get out of bed. And to the point where there was nothing, I just thought those were defo days. Oh, it's another defo day. Tylenol doesn't work. You needed some sort of central nervous system suppressant. Like it's neuropathic, like radiculopathy and nerve damage and all these things that I was just like.
That's crazy. Not the migraines part, but him thinking that it was something else. Like I know what that's like to get migraines. When I was in Timor, I got medevaced from Ballabo, where we were based, to Dili, to the bigger hospital there. The medical facility that we had there in Ballabo, I guess, wasn't set up to be able to keep me in there, because I would have been in Dili for probably 2 weeks. The migraine and the pain was just horrendous, and real photosensitivity, like to bright light and all that sort of stuff. I started out, I remember, in the tents that we were in, just racked out in my stretcher, couldn't do anything, couldn't sleep. So when I would get my migraines, I couldn't sleep. I'd try to cold pack it, be in the dark, try to darken things as much as I could. The coolness or a cold pack would help to a degree, but it never got rid of the pain. Taking a couple of ibuprofen or Panadol, that wasn't working. Then taking a few more, that wasn't working. Got given a stronger drug by the medics, that wasn't working. I was laid up in the medical bay that we had there in Ballabo for at least probably 48 hours, maybe 72 hours, still with the same migraine, couldn't do anything, wasn't able to eat, just drinking fluids. And I guess they got to the point they couldn't do anything. So I can resonate with what he's talking about with regards to migraines. And then I got evac'd to Dili, and was there for probably at least another 2 weeks. Just again, the pain was constant. It's just like a constant thud in behind my my eye, and just above. So just above and in behind is where I feel the pain every single time, and I can feel it when it's starting to come on too. And it was just, man, yeah, they're the worst anyway. So hearing him speak about getting the migraines, those suck. I know what those are like.
Well, it's only a beer is the only thing's going to take it away. And culturally, it's okay. Socially, I can do this, and then I couldn't do it because my drinking had been exposed, because I was a high functioning alcoholic. I could perform. And then if I had something that day or the next day, I wouldn't drink. So I rationalized, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm abusing it from time to time. I talk about using anything to mask an overwhelming emotion, to me, is abuse. If you're using it, it could be sex, it could be work, it could be alcohol, like substances, it doesn't matter. But that's another way for me to rationalize always going back to it. Once I get it under control, then I'm like, complacency. I'm feeling real good about myself. And my sense of self, my identity was my job. It always has been, because no one ever showed me as a man, as a contributing member of society, what it looks like to be those things without.
Man, that's sorry, I can resonate with that too. It's when you make it to that sort of environment and you're privileged and fortunate to serve in a place like that with all these blinking guns that are around you that are just so much better, fitter, faster, stronger, bigger, smarter, more intelligent, etc. Man, it's you feel privileged, or I felt privileged to be there. And clearly at one stage, at least in my career, I took that for granted and lost sight of that. So that's been a big eye opener for me and a huge lesson learned. But further to Kyle's point, when you break away from that, I was all right for a few years because I was doing the private security stuff working with some high level dudes from ex-Kiwis and ex-British SAS operators. So I felt at home with them, and I was still working in a high risk environment. But then you take that away, I thought I was okay, and yeah, I definitely wasn't. So trying to navigate that space, how do I plug in? How do I fit into the rest of this thing called civilian life and the community? And how do I fit in even with my family, with my wife and with our children now that I'm home like all the time, every day? And that is that was very, very hard, especially when you've invested so much in and your identity is personally, you're not going around telling everybody that you're this and that, but intrinsically you're thinking, man, I'm a soldier. Like, I'm in a stage of my life where that's what I should be doing. Like, I should be over there with the guys. That was how I felt anyway. I haven't gone into that in a lot of detail, but just talking about it now, listening to Kyle, this is helpful. It's sort of therapeutic for me too, to a degree, but it gives me an opportunity to reflect, share some of my experiences, but also share some of my learnings and stupid mistakes.
About your work being your identity. And through all those ups and downs, like, to me, I view rock bottom as my inability to lower my standards faster than my circumstances. So I'll always dig a hole deeper. And the next one I would have dug would have been my own grave, for sure. Or I've been in jail for the rest of my life. There's three options. Those two, and then pushing a shopping cart under an overpass, because I'm cemented in PTSD, where no one understands me. And the comparing of trauma is the problem. And it's the reason that, people are going and making the most selfish decision there is, and that's to take their own life. And I'm not.
I love that he said that. I know I've shared that on, when my brother-in-law interviewed me, we spoke a little bit about that. I described that in this same sort of way. I still feel like that today, but I'm definitely mindful and have nothing but respect for people, that get to that point, that dark space. But I do feel like that's a really selfish thing to do, to commit suicide, to take your own life. Hence why that's part of my message at the end, without talking about that specific topic. But hence why I say there are people that need you. There are people that want you around. There are people that need your example, your guidance, your support, your presence. Those things are important, and those things are true. But we can talk ourselves into anything. And this is really nice to hear somebody else share a similar thought. I cut him off midstream, so I might just go back a little bit and hear him say that again, but also hear what else he has to say. So I'll just dial it back once I hit play.
Above it, trauma is the problem, and it's the reason that people are going and making the most selfish decision there is, and that's to take their own life. And I'm not above it. Like, I've at all. I've been very close to what I think is the space or in hopelessness, and that's the most scared I've ever been. And that's happened to me since 2016 on 3 different occasions.
It's cool to hear him be brave and have the courage to share that too. I think I agree with him. I don't think anybody's above it. I've definitely can connect and resonate with the feelings of hopelessness, isolation, being alone, feeling alone, shutting people out, feeling like it's just me. I can only depend on me. And by and large, to a degree, I still feel like that. I try not to, not even in my best friend, my sweetheart, I still try to, just count on me. It's only I can do what I need to do. Only I can drag myself out of this, etc. I can have points of reference and markers and indicators and good things like my best friend, my sweetheart, my children, friends, family, aspirations, things that I want to do. I can have those as lights or beacons, for want of a better term, to give me something to hold on to or to strive to work towards. But ultimately, it's me that has to want it, that has to put in the work, that has to suffer, that has to go through it, and that has to drag myself out of it. That's for me. That's me talking about me, not trying to put that onto anybody else. What you choose to do, how you choose to go about it, yours might be speaking with other people. Yours might be getting the counsel and guidance and advice that you need. It might be whatever it is that you choose to do. But for me, my mindset has shifted for many, many years now. In that feeling of, I need to make this change. I know, regardless of what I try to tell myself, people don't need me around. They don't need, the kids are older now, like they're pretty much adults, like they know what they're doing, blah, blah, blah. They don't need me. Wife is better off without me in her life. Like all of these types of conversations and thoughts I've had a number of times, and I don't think I'm alone in that. But it has been me also needing to blink and give myself a few of those and some of these as well to get me to pull my head in, and that has been hard. Maybe I could have done it sooner had I reached out to somebody and spoken about it. Who knows? But yeah, I'm glad that I chose to go through that and just back myself and go through it. So everybody has their own ways of dealing with things.
Where I drove myself into a hopelessness feeling and alone in a crowd, and no longer can be. I knew that I can't be in bars or this or that because it was overly stimulating, and then I would just drink, and then I'd become something else. And then it was just this. I used to joke around with mates and stuff and be like, "How dark passenger took over, bro." It's not a fucking joke, man. It's like a serious thing where we compartmentalize to do things at such a high level over and over. But if we don't think that we have to unpackage that at some point, then it becomes a dark passenger. And then
that's a cool point, it becoming a dark passenger. I'm glad. A couple of things, or probably one thing that stands out, one of the lessons I learned from my time in NZ during the cycle when I had that incident with the civilian where I almost went to jail for it. Stupid decision to be drinking that night when I had said I wasn't drinking. And then, a silly conversation. I don't even remember what it was about with my sweetheart. We had an argument and I was like, and I chose to drink. Stupid decision. But the lesson from that over the years, so that's back in 1999, I've always remembered that if ever I've been in a dark place, not that I've ever had a craving, and I was never really a big drinker anyway, but not that I've ever had a craving for alcohol. Even if the slightest thought of that came in, just instantly it was overshadowed with the incident that happened, which almost led to me losing my career, going to jail, etc., etc. And it's just an instant, no, that's not even an option. I'm not even going to go sit in a place that sells alcohol. It's just not an option for me at all. And so I think that's been a big help as well, just knowing that, it's not that I've given up drinking. This was my talk to me. It wasn't a case of me saying to myself, I'm giving up drinking or I'm trying to stop drinking. It was a case of I don't drink. So that mindset has been, it's been awesome for me. I think there's a difference in that in terms of when you're saying, I'm trying to quit drinking or I'm X amount of months or years sober. I think that leaves the door open. World according to Joe Hortai. I think that leaves the door open for you potentially to start drinking again. I think the other way does as well, but it's a stronger commitment, I guess, is where I'm going. So my talk to myself, and if people ask, my reply is, no, I don't drink. So meaning I don't drink alcohol. And that's the difference between, I haven't drunk since, or I'm so many weeks, months, years sober, versus just straight out, I don't drink. And so that's been a big help. I could see how that could cloud the judgment with things, and how, like you said, he may have been dead or an alcoholic or pushing a shopping cart under a bridge somewhere. Or in jail, I think was one of the other options that he had.
We just kind of culturally just say, it's just someone else is driving behind the wheel right now, It's not okay.
Yeah.
Like it's minimizing the impact that's having. It's not a split personality. It's you, and you need to give it the energy if you ever want to heal and recover, because you will. And I am. And only through the spiritual awakening I had, where I truly saw myself as many holes as I dug, this was the most like closest to like, well, for one, death, but like I could see clearer than day through the haze of just, I see that face, like just passed out, like I'm gonna choke on my own damn whatever, just laying or sitting there in the seat. And just like the reason I think I'm still here is because even though I never really knew how to love myself, like I would never have taken my own life because I would never do that to my girls, my daughters, and my kids. Like I just wouldn't do it. And because I love them more than I love myself. And that's a definition of codependency. And now, only through seeing that and truly like not having a reason or, oh, I'm sorry, I was just fucked up or drunk, daddy doesn't act that way, or I'm just so mad at your mom, deflecting and like, or just being honest with them about, hey, I am dealing with so much and I'm projecting it on you guys. Like they've seen all these aspects of me, but this time there was no hiding. There was no words that could explain. It was just Roger that. And that's when I started my path to recovery and in alcohol and in AA and acceptance has been the biggest thing for me. It's the first step, powerlessness. I viewed that as weakness my whole life, but it's an opportunity for strength and growth. And man, just by accepting that I'm an alcoholic, holy shit, it's opened up like a floodgate of feeling and connections. And the biggest one is a power greater than myself. Step 2, believing in it, not just believing in it, not just paying it lip service or acknowledging it, that a power exists out there. For me, it's trust. And when I truly like trusted in God, I've been able to communicate with daily. And now I can trust other human beings. And it's almost like being like a little child on like just happier than a pig in shit every day, because there's so much joy that it's been there. I just couldn't see it or feel it for what it was. And it's there. And that's why like I'm looking at this 10 months of sobriety where I'm like, man, aren't we all blessed?
I'm going to pause that there. It's nearly 30 minutes. Cool to hear him talk about his stuff there and his journey and his rehab, the acceptance, acknowledging and accepting that he's an alcoholic, and just how freeing that must have been. The burden that must have, or the impression that I get is that it must have been or felt like a huge burden lifted off his shoulders, a weight lifted off him, and probably his family as well. Maybe a dark cloud removed and the sun is shining through, whatever. But that's cool to hear. Interesting hearing him speak about finding faith. That's what it sounds like to me, and being able to, having that ability to then trust in a power greater than himself. So he uses and references God, and that's cool that he's found that for him. And it's interesting also how he's mentioned that's enabled him to not only communicate with God, but also enabled him to be able to trust other people and stuff again. And that's interesting. I mean, I just spoke about before, I'm not in that space with regards to trusting other people. I love my family, my wife, children, but I'm not depending on them for stuff in terms of where I'm coming from to do things for me. I feel like, that's still on me to do what I need to do it to the best of my ability, and don't go putting that burden onto somebody else with regards to putting all my eggs into one basket and trusting that they can deliver and do the things that I want or that I need them to do. So that's just me and where I'm at. That may change down the line. I have had a strong faith before, or I felt like it was strong before, for those that have asked. But yeah, I haven't felt that way for a number of years now, and I'm cool with that. I'm fine with that. My family still loves and accepts me, regardless of that as well. And yeah, and I still love and respect their decision to maintain their faith and their trust. So yeah, it's cool to hear him speak about that. And also, it's been cool to listen to, just the growth and the learning and the healing it sounds like Kyle has been through, and or maybe he's still going through, but he is, not as going through, because I think he's well past that now. This interview was done years ago. I think what he was going through at the time, or maybe he had completed, but I suspect maybe he was still on his journey. He spoke about 10 months sobriety and that sort of thing. So I wonder if he now just refers to, no, I don't drink, or if he still says, no, I'm still trying to stay as sober as I can for as long as I can. Who knows? But grateful for these interviews, the Shawn Ryan Show and Mr. Kyle Morgan. Shout out to those two as well. And for this transfer of knowledge and experiences, which, no doubt helps a heck of a lot of people. So anyway, if you made it this far, appreciate you and your time and your support. Anybody, as always, the message is the same. If you're going through hard times, challenges, difficulties, know that they are only temporary, that they do not last forever, that better days are ahead and the sun will shine again, and that those better days are closer than you think. So keep turning up, keep staying in the fight, just put one foot in front of the other and take one day at a time. And I promise you, you'll get to a stage eventually, I can't tell you when, but eventually, when that burden will lift and better days will be right there at your feet. So as always, go always a little further. Remember, who dares wins and who cares wins. And until the next video, there's a big mana wave coming from me to you, filled with my aroha, respect, appreciation, and gratitude for you all.